Jim Morrison, the lead singer of the famous rock band The Doors, is remembered as one of the most interesting and mysterious figures in the history of rock music. Even though his life ended when he was only 27 years old, he left behind a legacy that still inspires musicians today. His powerful voice, deep lyrics, and intense stage performances made him a star. But Jim Morrison was not easy to be around. Many people said he had a difficult personality, and even some of his fellow rock stars did not like him. This story will explore why 8 famous musicians had negative feelings about Jim Morrison. Number 1. Jimmyi Hendris. One of the most famous and shocking stories about Jim Morrison involves the guitar legend Jimmyi Hendris. In March 1968, there was a jam session in New York City. Jimmyi Hendris was playing beautifully when Jim Morrison, who was very drunk, stumbled onto the stage. He started shouting strange noises into the microphone. Then, Jim did something even worse. He got on the floor and grabbed onto Jimmy's legs while he was playing. Everyone was shocked. Janice Joplin was watching, and for the second time, she hit Jim Morrison over the head with a bottle of Southern Comfort. Security pulled all of them off the stage. A month later, Jim Morrison interrupted another show in Canada and asked Jimmyi Hendris if he could join him on stage. Jimmy politely said no. Jim angrily said, "Do you know who I am? I'm Jim Morrison of The Doors." Jimmyi Hendris calmly replied, "Yeah, I know who you are. And I'm Jimmyi Hendris." That was the last time they ever spoke in public. Jimmyi Hendrix's calm and professional response showed how he kept his cool, but it also made it clear that he didn't want anything to do with Jim Morrison after those events. Number 2. Led Zeppelin. In 1969, both The Doors and the band Led Zeppelin performed at a music event called the Seattle Pop Festival. During the Doors show, Jim Morrison did not behave well. He yelled at the audience, made rude hand signs, and acted like he was trying to start a fight with the crowd. The members of Led Zeppelin, especially Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, watched and were not impressed. Jimmy Page said he liked Jim's songwriting, but thought his behavior on stage was embarrassing. Robert Plant also believed Jim was probably high on drugs during the performance and called his actions sickening. After seeing him act that way, Led Zeppelin didn't think very highly of Jim Morrison. Number 3. Dennis Wilson. Dennis Wilson, a member of the Beach Boys, had a friendship with Jim Morrison at first. They used to hang out in Los Angeles and were part of the same music crowd. But things changed when Jim Morrison started spending time with Charles Manson, a man who would later become a dangerous cult leader. Dennis Wilson didn't like the energy that Charles Manson brought, and he didn't want to be around anyone connected to him. This made him pull away from Jim Morrison. Later, Dennis and Jim got into a fight at a famous nightclub called Whiskey A Go-Go. After that, they stopped talking. This shows how Jim's choices in friends and behavior could ruin even good relationships. Number 4. Jerry Garcia. Jerry Garcia was the lead guitarist and singer for the Grateful Dead. His band was also part of the 1960s music scene. Even though The Doors and the Grateful Dead were both popular, Jerry Garcia didn't like Jim Morrison at all. Jerry thought The Doors' music was offensive. He believed that Jim was just copying other rock stars, like Mick Jagger when he performed. He didn't think Jim really deserved the praise he got for being a rock poet. Jerry Garcia was not afraid to speak his mind. He said what he felt, even if it wasn't popular. His comments showed that he believed there should be more honesty and less show in music. Number 5. Frank Zapper. Frank Zapper was known for being very smart and serious about music. He didn't like drugs and believed that using them ruined musicians. He thought Jim Morrison glamorized drug use, which made it look cool to young people. Frank believed that Jim's crazy stage performances weren't because of real talent, they were because he was drunk or high. Frank Zapper didn't stop there. He even called The Doors' music distasteful and obnoxious. He thought Jim Morrison was wasting his potential and setting a bad example. Even though Frank Zappa could be very critical, his opinions came from a desire to protect young fans. He wanted music to be about skill and message, not about dangerous lifestyles. Number 6. Lou Reed. Lou Reed, the singer from the band The Velvet Underground, had very strong opinions about Jim Morrison. He didn't like the hippie lifestyle of the 1960s, and he didn't think West Coast bands like The Doors were very good. He thought Jim Morrison's stage behavior and wild image were just for show. When Lou Reed heard about Jim's death, he didn't feel sorry at all. He even made fun of it, saying, "How fabulous, a bathtub in Paris. I have no pity for that silly Los Angeles person." Lou Reed thought Jim wasn't a true artist. He believed Jim's actions were more about getting attention than making good music. To Lou, Jim Morrison was an example of everything wrong with the 1960s rock scene. Number 7. Janice Joplin. Janice Joplin was another famous rock star in the 1960s. She had a powerful voice and a big personality. At first, she liked Jim Morrison and was excited to meet him. But things changed quickly. At a party one night, Jim tried to flirt with Janice, but she didn't like it. She said no nicely, but Jim wouldn't stop. He followed her outside and even pulled her out of her car by her hair. Janice Joplin wasn't someone who would just let that happen. She was strong and confident. She picked up a bottle of Southern Comfort, a type of alcohol, and smashed it over Jim's head. He fell to the ground, knocked out cold. They never made up after that, and it's safe to say Janice didn't like Jim Morrison at all. This moment became a famous story in rock history. Even though Janice Joplin had a wild side too, she showed that she wouldn't put up with Jim's behavior. Number 8. The Doors' bandmates. Even the people closest to Jim Morrison, the members of his own band, had mixed feelings about him. His bandmates loved his talent and creativity, but they were often upset by how he acted. In March 1971, the Doors finished working on an album called L.A. Woman. After that, Jim Morrison decided to go to Paris with his girlfriend. His bandmates hoped that going to Paris would help him get better. They thought it might help him stop drinking so much and find peace, but Jim didn't clearly tell them if he was coming back. Then, just 4 months later, on July 3rd, 1971, shocking news came from Paris. Jim Morrison had been found dead in the bathtub of his apartment. His bandmates were stunned. The band's keyboardist, Ray Manzarek, went to the funeral, but he later said he never really believed Jim was dead. Since he never saw Jim's body, Ray started rumors that maybe Jim Morrison had faked his death. The drummer, John Densmore, was very angry. He believed that Jim's wild and dangerous lifestyle had led to his early death. John was so upset that he didn't even go to the funeral. For 3 years, he refused to visit Jim's grave. Still, as time passed, the band members started to forgive Jim. They began to remember the good things about him and honor his memory. This shows how even people who were very close to Jim Morrison found him difficult. He was gifted, but his actions caused a lot of stress for those around him. Jim Morrison had a rare gift. His voice, lyrics, and stage presence made him a rock legend. But his wild and unpredictable behavior made it hard for others to work with him or be his friend. From his bandmates in the Doors to music stars like Janis Joplin, Lou Reed, Frank Zapper, Jerry Garcia, Dennis Wilson, Led Zeppelin, and Jimmyi Hendris, many people had serious problems with how Jim acted. Still, even though he made a lot of mistakes, Jim Morrison's impact on music is still felt today. His songs are still played, and his image is still admired by fans around the world. He was a troubled genius, someone who created beauty and chaos at the same time. What do you think of Jim Morrison? Was he a misunderstood artist or someone who pushed too many people away? No matter your answer, there's no denying that his story is unforgettable.